What are some of the conundrums feminists face in porn? I'm here with Jupiter Slut from jupiterslut.com, and I'm Kathy Vartuli from theintimacydojo.com. And Jupiter, you're talking at Woodhull Sexual Freedom Summit on the conundrums faced by feminists in porn in a talk titled More Than Sexy. Can you tell us a little more about it?
I'd be delighted to. Thank you. I proposed this panel because I myself am a feminist and I produce porn, and I face conundrums as a feminist in the industry.
Yeah.
I got into creating porn because I was working on my own issues around having had my entire sexual identity and sex life um, aimed at pleasing men.
Mm.
I was raised to please them sexually and otherwise, and I didn't know any other way to be. In my very first sexual encounters, I pretty much had an out-of-body experience. I kind of watched from the outside to observe what people would do with my body,
Yeah.
and that was my sex ed. And after a 15-year marriage, I I had the kind of sex that my partner was willing to have with me, but there was a lot of parts of my own sexual identity that wasn't expressed,
Mm-hmm.
including the fact that my whole life I've been an exhibitionist and I've been suppressing that because that's not very acceptable.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a huge feminist move just to start making porn that was designed at showing and pursuing my sexual pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, for me, the feminism that was in my porn was, rather than trying to create images that would turn men on so they could masturbate, it was trying to create sexual images and film that turned me on and showed genuine representations of my sexual pleasure.
I love that. It's beautiful. And I've seen a little bit of it, like you're very playful and it's very fun.
Thank you. I have fun with sex, and I don't see a lot of that when a lot of the porn that I looked at, which, okay, I looked at a very little amount of porn in my life because not a lot of it has felt that it was accurately aimed at what turns me on.
Mm-hmm.
But of the little bit of porn I exposed myself to, a lot of it didn't feel like genuine female pleasure to me. I would look,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I don't think she really likes that. I think she's faking it. I think she's just doing that to please him. And you can say that was projections, but also we all are having, we all have some pretty good skills at face reading. And I could see, women in porn break face and go from feigned pleasure to real pleasure, or not successfully feigned pleasure at all.
Yeah.
And for me, those couple of moments when I saw real pleasure, those were the ones that always stuck out for me. So, not that I watched a lot of porn, but that's what I noticed. So that's what I was pursuing in my porn, and I was really proud of it and felt like that was a great feminist agenda. And after about a year, I realized that I was getting some pretty unenlightened comments from my fans.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely had some male commentary that to me felt like my feminist agenda was completely lost on them, and I had a little bit of a crisis.
Oh, no.
Like, what does it mean to be a feminist porn producer if people who watch your work still treat you the way you wouldn't necessarily want to be treated?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not the only woman out there who's dealt with these issues, and I want to hear what other women in porn who are also feminists, how they're dealing with it and what they're doing. And just even since proposing this kind of idea of inquiry, I've upped my feminist game within the porn community in ways that I'm really excited about.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks and I love that you're having this dialogue and this discussion because it's very nuanced. And how do you walk this walk? Like, I think for a long time it was kind of, if you're a feminist, you didn't like porn and you said porn was bad and degrading, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a delightful form of entertainment and education, and like a way for people to discover what things that turn them on. And how do you walk that without objectifying women or putting them as objects?
Well, I would say some women want to be objectified at certain times.
And that, as long as it's mutually consensual, for me, it's fine.
Um, I think also sometimes men want to be objectified.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place, as far as I'm concerned, if people are consensual, it's fine. But for me, it was really painful. And I remember actually when I was in college, reading a paper that was a feminist manifesto against any and all pornography. And they didn't believe that any woman could willingly or want to engage in porn. And if she was, I guess they probably were saying, you know, she's brainwashed by the man.
Yeah.
And I agree that the vast majority of porn that's out there has been engineered to a male gaze.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the problem and excitement for me. How do I engineer for a female gaze, especially when I don't even know what I like sexually?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was raised, like I told you, a lot of my early sexual experiences were out of body.
Yeah.
I literally just turned myself over like a big sex doll. Like,
yeah, just do whatever. Tell me when it's over.
Yeah, well, not because I wasn't interested, but because I was too scared. And I also had no concept of how to be entitled to my own sexuality. So I'm sure that's a place that's kind of a scary and really ignorant place to be, especially as an adult woman.
But we're not taught. There's not, like, I had abuse history, so I came in the same way. I was just like, I know sex is good. My body feels kind of good when it's done, but I don't know how to be in it during it. And I would just kind of disassociate, and like whatever they wanted I would do, and then afterwards I would sometimes feel really bad about myself.
So that's why my porn tends to be very playful, because I literally am learning through my porn. And also we tend to take so much serious, like, did I do it right? Did I do it good? You know, did I make her this? Did I make him that? And so mine tends to be just like, it's fine to make mistakes. It's okay for silly things to happen. I make it very goofy. I make comical porn. And more recently I've started trying to address it. At first, when the kind of other layer of well, gee, is it enough feminist for me just to be creating images of female pleasure with the aim at a female gaze? I'm not trying to say there is a female gaze. I was creating work aimed at discovering my female gaze.
Your own personal experience.
Yeah, and there's, you know, there's different things turn on many women, different things turn on very, very much turn on men, but I can tell the difference if I'm making porn and I'm trying to do something that makes a man get turned on.
What is your focus?
Very, very different than if I think, what is going to turn me on in this scene? And so that for me is a big important difference in my work. But I didn't think that it was getting as much traction with my audiences as I wanted, because the kind of quality of response that I was getting, I think my agenda and the difference was completely lost on some of the audience that I was hearing back from. So I'm now designing a class that is on called How to Fuck the Woman of Your Dreams, because a lot of times the response I'm getting are very negative and kind of demeaning pickups towards me, and my standards since entering porn have only increased. And I think a lot of times people assume that would be the opposite. But my body and my sexuality, I've made it my business. I've invested a great deal in becoming really aware of it. I feel much more protective of it. I certainly feel a lot more entitled to it than I ever have before. And people get really excited because they see me experience and enjoy my sexuality, and they don't necessarily have the skills to approach me in an appropriate way. So my new feminist game going from here to here is not just to portray a women's agenda, but then also now my next level up is that I'm starting to create ways for people who lack the skills to be able to approach a higher level of communication and negotiation with a lot of respect.
I love that. I wish I could send your video to anyone who wants to ask me out, because on OkCupid I get the worst. There's some beautiful responses, and there's some like when can we fuck? And I'm like, we're not going to, because you just proved that you do not have any thought in your approaches. So,
well, and I also intend to write one for women, because for me doing porn has been so powerfully transformative for me in me becoming entitled to my own sexuality. And I wouldn't have even known what that phrase meant a few years ago. So I intend to also be making a course for women, but both of those will be things that are shared out in the world, and I hope that make a difference for the people who could use them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thanks so much for doing this work. So this is, I mean,
It's
obviously,
literally my pleasure.
yeah.
I love it.
So obviously, I mean, this is really important. Why did you choose Woodhull as a venue to share this on?
Well, I've been attending Woodhull for about 3 years, and it is a magnificent group of thinkers, activists, people who are looking to create more freedom and more love and more rights to our own sexuality.
Yeah.
And I've benefited tremendously from listening to other speakers, and it was one of the first places that I ever experienced a publicly safe space for sexual inquiry and discussion. Mm-hmm. It's also pretty academic. It was a very high level of discussion, and I have an academic background. Yeah. I have 2 master's degrees, and I love getting really nitty-gritty in the conversation. So those are the things that are bringing me to Woodhull, and this is my first opportunity that I'm getting to give back to the community, and I'm just thrilled.
I love it. Thank you so much. If someone wanted to learn more about feminists and around porn and the issues they face, is there any good place they can go to learn more?
Well, there are. I would say if you, I have a book that I'm currently reading called Watching Porn. It is a memoir by a porn journalist. After 10 years of being a female feminist porn journalist, she wrote a memoir, and I am learning a ton. I was in the industry, but it's easy to be in your niche or to not know the history or the breadth of the work that other people are doing in the same vein as you. And I am learning so much by reading this memoir and loving it. So that's
nice. So Watching Porn. Great.
By Lindsay G. That would be my recommended book if you're interested in issues of feminism and porn. There are other good ones, which an Amazon search would do, but that one, I love that one.
Thank you for the recommendation. Yeah. And thank you for I know it's challenging enough to do the exploration of your own sexuality, what turns you on, but also considering how does this fit in with my beliefs around feminism, and then not only examining that, but distilling it and sharing it with people. I really appreciate this, and I think that you're adding a lot to the community. So thank you for being part of this. Yeah. All right. I look forward to see you in a couple months at Woodhull. And if you're watching this and you have questions or comments, please leave them below. We'll try to get back to you.
Yeah, and find me at jupiterslut.com.